Hello, everybody. Hope you're all doing well today. Welcome to another edition of PT Investigates. Today we're not going to be doing as much of investigation as more of debunking another mainstream media narrative. So this is the first video I've done like this. I hope it turns out well. We're going to be watching this clip and I'm going to be debunking it in real time as we go along. I'm not going to be showing you sources. I just watched this clip actually. I'm just going to be doing this off the top of my head. I noticed this clip, it was on the trending section. I got a notification because this was trending for some reason. So we're going to take a look at it and see what they've got to say. Now, here we go.
Joining us now are Nick Ackerman, former Assistant U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. He also served as an Assistant Special Watergate Prosecutor, is now a partner at Dorsey and Whitney. Also with us, Peter Baker, Chief White House Correspondent for the New York Times and an MSNBC political analyst, and David Frum, Senior Editor for The Atlantic. Nick Ackerman, the future of the tapes, let's pretend for a moment that they exist.
So there you go, right off the bat, we're pretending, we're starting the premise of the conversation on pretending something. So let's continue.
They will be subpoenaed.
I have no doubt that they will be subpoenaed.
That's kind of a nonsense question. Of course, if the tapes exist, of course, everybody's going to want to see them. Of course, the Senate Intelligence Committee, of course, the special prosecutor is going to want to see them. That's just kind of a nonsense question, but let's continue.
They absolutely should be. In fact, I'd be surprised if Mr. Mueller hasn't done that already.
And if this president tries to fight it in court, we have a case law here that indicates he will.
Again, we're talking about a complete hypothetical here. We don't even know for sure if the tapes actually do exist. I'd say there's only one person who would know for sure absolutely if they did or didn't, and that would be President Trump. But again, we're talking about a complete hypothetical here, talking about case law on a complete hypothetical, something we have absolutely no clue of knowing if the tapes even exist.
U.S. v. Nixon,
Yeah.
Right on the money, couldn't be more on point,
Right.
Gone, end of case.
But he can try to chase the case to an appellate level, possibly. But there will come a day when there would be, if he tries to fight this in court, where there will be a judicial order ordering the president.
And again, this doesn't even make sense. If there are tapes and they make him look good, why would he not want to release them? And if there aren't tapes, then this is, a complete non sequitur. There's no question here. There's no problem.
To turn this over. And my point.
And if the tapes do exist and they don't make him look good, again, he's likely the only one that knows. Him or very few people. So if they do exist and they make him look bad, we're never going to see him. That's all there is to it.
Point here is this president is unpredictable in that moment. We have a president who we don't know what he will do in the face of an order.
Well, considering all he's done already in obstructing the investigation of the FBI.
All he's done already obstructing the investigation of the FBI. You want to give us a little context there? You want to tell us what the fuck you're talking about?
I wouldn't put it past him if he just took those tapes and burned them. Or
no, of course not. You're just going to throw out an accusation like that and then say, oh yeah, I wouldn't put it past him if he burned them.
Put a magnet to him. I mean, he is the type of person who would do that in a second without any thought about the consequences or the fact that he's committing a serious federal felony. He's already done that. I mean, it's just be a continuation of what he's
already done that. What felony has he committed? Are you just completely talking out of your ass here?
Already been doing to this point.
David, from my betting is on the side that there are no tapes,
yeah.
and one of the reasons I placed that bet is that President Trump is now saying that James Comey is lying about our conversation. If he knew there were tapes, I'm not sure he would be making those claims because the tapes surely would not back him up.
Right. I want to make first a mathematical aside. I mean, you have the number 100% on the screen. I just want to point out that when President Trump went to the CIA and gave that notorious speech about his big popular vote win, he told the CIA he backed them 1,000%. So there are a lot of percents. 100 isn't all of them. Maybe 1,000 isn't all of them. There are a lot.
You listen to this guy. The president's a complete idiot now. He honestly thought 1,000% was an actual thing. That wasn't just a saying. That was, I mean, come on.
more percents than you're prepared to allow for. And so if he's only giving you 100 of them, that may just be a very small down payment.
Right.
We have to, when we think about taping, remember, I mean, we are living the iPhone era, so the tape is a metaphor for a recording. As you say, it seems incredibly unlikely that there is a recording. This conversation with Comey took place not in the West Wing.
I don't see why he said it's highly unlikely. I mean, we don't know. President Trump, like I said, is probably the only one who does know for sure. Why is it highly unlikely?
But in the main White House. So either somebody had an iPhone on the table or in a pocket and used a recording device. It's hard to imagine the president himself being able to do that.
Really, it's hard to imagine the president himself would be able to put an iPhone in his pocket and record a conversation because the president's just a complete fucking idiot. Yeah, right. Come on, dude. Shut the fuck up.
Or else somebody has worked with the permanent White House staff to install microphones or listening devices in the woodwork of the historic executive mansion. That also doesn't seem very likely.
Peter Baker, shouting broke out today about the tapes when the president gave the non-answer to a very simple yes or no question that he knows the answer to. Can we expect this to be the question that the White House press corps will continue to be aiming in that direction as long as it remains unanswered?
Well, it's hard to imagine us not asking the question again and again. And he said very soon. So you can imagine the next time he takes questions, if he hasn't actually revealed anything at that point, to be asked.
Yeah, he said very soon, and we're all going to be disappointed when we find out the answer. Now, that could kind of go either way. You know, we're either going to be disappointed because it contradicts Comey, or the leftist media would be disappointed in that case, or we're going to be disappointed because there are no tapes at all. I kind of lead towards there are no tapes. I think the president just said that after reading the story from the New York Times about the dinner where he demanded loyalty from Comey. I think in response to that story, President Trump put out the narrative that there may be tapes. You know, James Comey doesn't know that for sure, so that gives James Comey an incentive to tell the truth, to not lie. So you know, it's kind of tough to say exactly where we are right now, but that's kind of my opinion on it a little bit. So let's continue here.
Well, it's been pretty soon, sir. When are you going to let us know? Of course, in the past, he has said, you know, he was going to reveal things or do things in the near future that ended up not ever happening. It wouldn't be the first time that would happen. But this has greater consequence. And you're right. It does seem like
no example there. Just, again, another accusation, another claim with no backing.
A simple yes or no questions. If you didn't have tapes, then the answer today, of course, is no. If you,
I mean, as far as I look at it, I mean, if you take President Trump's promises from the campaign and make a checklist, I mean, so far he's been going right down the checklist. I don't know what exactly you're talking about that he said he would come through on and hasn't. I mean, there are some campaign promises, sure, the wall, there's a few big ones out there, but I mean, what exactly are you talking about? Just, you know, another four-eyed dork talking out of your ass again.
You do have tapes, maybe you decide, look, I'll tell you something in the near future because they want to do something with those tapes. They want to negotiate with the special counsel. They want to review them. They want to
all speculation, no basis on what you're saying whatsoever. Again, we don't even know for sure if there are tapes.
Transcribe them. They want to whatever. So, you know, I tend to agree with you. There's probably not likely to be tapes. It struck me when he first mentioned this, he was sort of trolling Jim Comey as kind of, you know, you don't know.
So if that's what you think, why all this speculation? I mean, that was a pretty good freeze frame. But if that's what you think, if you think he was just trolling James Comey, why not just say that from the get-go? Why make all this useless speculation?
But we don't know, and that's a position he kind of likes keeping people in for the moment.
Peter, any hint from anyone working at the White House about what the president is actually thinking about this tapes game that he's playing, or is the White House staff completely in the dark about whatever it is he's thinking?
Why would this guy know the answer to that question? Is he part of the Trump staff? I mean, that's a ridiculous question just to get him to put out an opinion that would make Trump look bad. I guarantee you he's going to say something here that makes Trump look bad, makes his staff in some way look bad. I mean, that's a ridiculous question.
I think most of them are as confused as we are. You know, we asked Sarah Huckabee Sanders yesterday, the
it's kind of funny, you know.
White House.
I don't claim to know exactly what's going on, but most of the time I don't think I'm not confused. And you know, I have an opinion about this, but I don't claim to think that my opinion is 100% right. But I'm not confused. I mean, are you confused? This guy's obviously confused. It doesn't surprise me. He's in the media, so I mean, confusion is a normal for the media.
Deputy press secretary about this, and she says, "Sure, I'll go look under the couches for them." I think that they don't know for sure themselves, and there is a history of
The president's not telling you for sure himself if there are or are not tapes. Obviously, if there are, he's not ready to. I mean, he's masterfully trolled so many people throughout the campaign and his presidency. I mean, this is really hard to believe they can't see what's going on here. You know, if the president doesn't want everybody to know whether there are or are not tapes, why do you think this Huckabee Sanders chick would go out and tell people, yes, there are tapes, or no, there are not tapes? I mean, come on, guys.
Donald Trump as a business.
I mean, you're trying to think of something to say to fill a time slot here.
Businessmen being
And these people make millions of dollars a year. I mean, I'm just a guy sitting here in my backyard, and I can see through their bullshit propaganda.
said anyway to record conversations that he made along the time, so nobody can be 100% sure. As you say, there's a lot of reasons to think it seems unlikely. As David was saying, you know, the various permutations of how this would come about seem pretty far-fetched. But then a lot of things have seemed far-fetched so far in these last 140-some days, so I guess I don't rule anything out.
Let's listen to Donald Trump's talking points that he recited today about why he thinks the Comey hearing went so well for the president. And I say talking points because don't expect sentences here.
Yeah, you say talking points, and you act like what you're saying and what you're portraying here isn't nothing but talking points passed around between all of the leftist media.
No collusion, no obstruction. He's a leaker, but we want to get back to running our great country. We were.
I mean, I'm not a grammar expert, but is that not a sentence? There's no collusion, there's no obstruction. He's a leaker. We're whatever he said. I mean, that sounds like, you know, it was a sentence. I mean, were you just trying to pick on him and, you know, like always, just make him look bad? Though, of course, let's continue.
Very, very happy. And frankly, James Comey confirmed a lot of what I said.
And that's
and
true.
Some of the things that he said just weren't true.
Nick Ackerman, you're.
If you watch my video from yesterday, I went through that. You know, James Comey did confirm quite a few things that President Trump said. That is absolutely true. But are they going to acknowledge that? Absolutely not. I highly doubt it anyway.
Reaction to that?
I don't even know where to start.
Of course you don't.
Statement. I mean, first of
You're a
all,
fucking idiot.
no obstruction. He basically, Comey came out and put in the first leg of the obstruction case, which is that meeting in the Oval
Really? Really? Did he? Really? Tell us how,
Office.
please.
That is one of 4 legs of the obstruction case that we have that include the 2 national security people who say that Trump called them and asked them to help stop that investigation, as well as the firing of Mr. Comey. The fact is, we now have under oath the first part of that, and it's pretty well spelled out.
Let me ask you about.
What are you talking about, guy? What are you talking about? Watch my video from yesterday. I went over this Flynn business. I didn't go very deep into it, but I covered one back and forth between, I believe it was Senator Risch and James Comey, where he was asking him pretty much, can you be prosecuted for a thought crime? Do you know of anybody who's ever been prosecuted for hoping something? So what is this guy talking about? What obstruction of justice? What are you talking about, you fucking idiot?
One element of this, which people are stressing, the fact that the president asked everyone to leave the room, including the FBI director's boss, the attorney general, leave.
And again, they're going to try to twist this into, you know, President Trump wanting to meet with James Comey privately into some kind of nefarious meeting. Although, as we've seen, the first time they met privately, James Comey initiated that meeting. I went over this in my video yesterday, if you watched it. So what is the problem with this? James Comey can jump up the chain of command, but President Trump can't go down the chain of command? Like, what is your point here? What are you talking about? What are you saying? There's nothing here. No crimes were broken here.
the room. And Jim Comey testifies that people seemed reluctant to leave the room, that Jeff Sessions.
Yeah, and he's reading people's minds. He's reading their body language and interpreting what their thoughts are, because it seemed they're lingering around. They knew something bad was about to happen. Come on, guys. That would never hold up in a court of law. Jim Comey saying, "Oh, he told me I hope you do this, but I took it as a direction." That would never hold up in a court of law. Give me a fucking break.
Hung around hoping he was going to be able to stay in the room, and then that others tried to do that, but the president was insistent they all had to leave the room. How incriminating is that in the obstruction of justice investigation?
Extremely incriminating. It all goes to his corrupt intent, which
Corrupt intent, please explain.
is defined by law as his intent to stop the FBI investigation. It doesn't have to do with bribery. It doesn't have to do what we normally think of as corruption. It's the idea that he specifically...
That's not true. The intent has to do with your actions. It doesn't have to do with the intent of your actions. Did the actions you performed, your intended actions, what you actually did, the words that came out of his mouth, the actions that he actually took, was that illegal? You're not you can't interpret intent from words. You can't say, well, he said I hope, but because of this setting and this and blah blah blah, it was actually an order. No. Were his actions illegal? Were the intended actions here illegal? No, they were not. Telling somebody I hope for an outcome is not illegal. Like I've said many times now, you cannot prosecute somebody for a fucking thought crime.
Intended to have that FBI investigation stopped in its tracks.
And if he wanted that, in fact, if he wanted to do that, I'm reading from many people here that would have not been illegal either. You look at the whole Watergate scandal. Nixon resigned, Gerald Ford took over. Just because Nixon resigned doesn't mean he's then doesn't mean he can't be held accountable for his actions. So what did Gerald Ford do? He pardoned him. Gerald Ford pardoned him to stop an FBI investigation into him. What do you know? So there was nothing illegal about that. Ford wasn't impeached afterwards. That's all Trump would have to do. Pardon Flynn, stop the investigation. There's nothing illegal about this. So even if you did want to say that he took that as direction, there's nothing wrong with it.
Rob, I want to get your reaction to that, because you're someone who's worked in the White House, and you know about the liturgy of these kinds of moments when it happens, when the room is cleared, or why that would be done. What was your reaction to that part of it?
Look, the reason you clear a room is because you're about to talk about something that is sensitive, and there are people who do not have the clearance or the need to know that particular thing. At those moments of drama, you can imagine many things, from domestic, international, where the president wants to talk to people with a very high level of security and other people who are there.
And what's the problem with that? Is there a problem with clearing the room of people who don't have clearance to know what you're fixing to talk about?
Are asked to leave, and everyone, and there's no reluctance. Then you understand this isn't for my ears. I don't think I've heard of any incidents in any presidency since the Nixon days where a president asked people to leave in order to do something like this.
To do something like what? To have a private conversation with somebody? Are you kidding me? I mean, you're just trying to twist this and make this seem nefarious when in fact it's not. There's nothing wrong with this at all. I gave the analogy in my video yesterday of, say you're a department manager, you're some kind of supervisor, you have people underneath you in your job, so the normal protocol would be you would answer to your manager, who would then answer to the owner. So say you're in a meeting with your manager, other department managers, other department heads, and the owner of the business. The owner of the business asked everybody to clear the room except you. Now, normal protocol would be the owner would talk to the manager, who would then relay the message to you, and same way the other way around. You would talk to your manager who would then relay the message to the owner. That's normal protocol. That's normal chain of command. But what is wrong if somebody jumps the chain of command the other way? Tell me, please.
One other thing the president said, and in that same clip you played, where he accused Jim Comey of having said things that weren't true. Jim Comey was under oath. If they're not true, they're perjury. That's not the first time this president, as president...
That is true. If he lied under oath, that is perjury.
has accused important people of serious crimes. He's accused President Obama of crimes. He's accused National Security Advisor Rice of crimes. And I know we're all sort of hardened and habituated.
Yeah, and those were just completely baseless accusations too, right?
and the president says crazy things and you don't pay attention. But he's the head of state, and he's accusing important people of serious crimes. That must mean something.
Yeah, you're absolutely damn right. It should mean something. Why don't we start looking into this shit? Especially Rice. You want to just glance over that real quick. Susan Rice, yeah. Why don't you start
We're going to have to
investigating
break
her?
it there. Nick Ackerman, David Frum, Peter Baker, thank you all for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC.
All right, so that's it here. Like I said, I just found this video in the trending area, and it triggered me, I guess you'd say, and I wanted to go, show it to everybody and show you how stupid these people are, and debunk it for you in real time in case you're one of these people who actually like listening to this stuff. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time on PT Investigates.